Hi everyone, welcome to week 4. Hard to believe that we're already to our halfway point in the term. Seems like we just started. So just wanted to go over our week 3 summary and go over some of the quiz questions, but also talk a little bit about our content from week 3. So last week we talked a bit about the service area competitor analysis. Obviously in week 2 we kind of talked overall about environmental analysis, and then we're going to kind of break down some of those things. And I just want to talk a little bit about marketing. So we don't really focus specifically on, here's advertising, here's marketing, research, etc. But the thing to keep in mind with strategic management, we're really focused on strategic planning in this course, but all of these aspects, like as we talked about last week, the notion of this service area competitor analysis, this is really very important for market research. Obviously it is really market research, but it's important from a strategic planning, strategic management point of view, but also from a marketing point of view for the purpose of developing our marketing plans as well. So really the same research going forward is going to impact both aspects of our operation. So we talked about the service area competitive analysis, 5 forces, Porter's 5 forces. So we talked a little bit about, or a lot of it, about Porter's 5 forces. And I was, sorry about that, my cell phone. I was trying to kind of force the discussion about of those 5 forces. Everyone gave a great discussion of what the 5 forces are, but what, from your perspective, was the most important or the most pertinent of those 5 forces, maybe based on where you work or what you've seen or what you've been exposed to. And some folks did have different points of view on that. Maybe I know that here in Western Pennsylvania, the just the competitive nature of the marketplace is strong. Obviously, as we talked quite a bit about in the discussion board, and so that can be very make that aspect of the 5 forces stronger, etc. So good discussion around that, and that's kind of where I was leaning toward with that discussion board. So really interesting discussions, and hopefully people enjoyed that aspect of it. And I had mentioned this, but I know everyone doesn't read every post, but really the 5 forces analysis grew out of the SWOT analysis. And I'm sure everyone's probably done a SWOT analysis at one point or another in their life, but strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. And Porter just felt that SWOT wasn't enough. Didn't give us a great enough picture. So really wanted to have something more significant than just that SWOT analysis. So he created this greater analysis. So let's talk a little bit about the quiz. The case study. I'll review your case studies. I know I've gotten a couple notes from folks that were fretting a bit about the case study. I don't want you to fret. The case study is an opportunity for folks to think in a more real world setting. I know that we're all perfectionists and we want to be able to do things 100% correctly. And I really don't want you to fret about those types of activities. And that's really why I've scheduled the synchronous session when I did, so that we can review the next case study before you do it. I don't want you to fret about those types of case studies. I just want you to be able to kind of put some of what we're learning into a real world, how would you think about strategic planning in a real world setting? So I know that you're not necessarily going to have the wherewithal to be able to do all the financial calculations and those types of things. I'm not looking for exact numbers on those, but just to be able to give an idea of, well, here's how I might think about doing that, or here's how I might be able to calculate that out. That's fine. that's the kind of thought process I'm looking for. I'm looking for some critical thinking around those types of things. Okay, so let's talk about the quiz. So the first question was, Smith's 5 forces have helped to indicate the viability of a product or service. Now, this was a trick question. You know how I don't particularly like trick questions, but the textbook does, so there's quite a few of them on here. So the answer to this was false. So the 5 forces analysis isn't by Smith, so you can immediately eliminate the question just from that. So without even going any further, and we talked at length about Porter's 5 forces, so I'm not going to go into depth about Porter's 5 forces. I think probably everybody has a good idea of what it is and how it analyzes the market, but it's definitely not Smith's 5 forces. So that's why the answer to that question was false. Okay, the next question. The focus of a service area competitor analysis should include the following. So there were actually several answers. Select viable strategy, anticipate a competitor's move, foster strategic thinking throughout the organization, identify market niches and discontinuities. But so the answer was all of the above. And the service area competitor analysis, as we learned about, is really about trying to determine competitive advantage. How can we make ourselves better than everybody else? What's going on in our area, in our geographic area, or it may even be wider than our geographic area. Maybe we compete with folks outside of our geographic area. So you can't just consider your geographic area. You need to consider your competitive market. And so who are we competing with, and how do we make ourselves better than them? So all of these types of things, anticipating competitors' moves, and then fostering strategic thinking throughout the organization. It's not just about me and my colleague and senior staff. It needs to be me and my colleague and senior staff, and Bob down in middle management, and Susie over in marketing, and Bill down in the billing office, and everyone needs to think strategically about how are we going to be better than everybody else. And I've always I have done more customer service and that type of training than I want to think about, but I've always said it's not about meeting your customers' expectations. It's about exceeding your customers' expectations. So you never want to meet them, because if you meet them, then they're going to be disappointed. So you always want to exceed your customers' expectations, and that's why that's how you create that competitive advantage. So really important from that competitor analysis standpoint. Last one. When conducting a service area competitor analysis, it is not necessary to encourage discussion between the organization's leaders. And again, this is false. You absolutely want to encourage discussion between organizations' leaders. You want everyone to be chatting amongst one another to figure out what is going on, to do this analysis, to make determinations about who are our competition, who is not our competition. You want to make educated decisions on these types of things. Now, one thing that you don't want to do, and there's a discussion about it in the book about paralysis by analysis, you don't want too much data. You don't want to go too far because you can paralyze yourself with too much data, too much discussion, etc. But you also do want to make sure that you encourage this discussion amongst your leadership and get everyone involved as appropriate. So the answer to that question was false. So that's all I have this week. Looking forward to another good week. This week, I think we're going on to looking at, seems like we're looking at like internal environment this week. So we're gonna change from looking externally to looking internally at ourselves and see what's going on within our own environment. So should be another good week, and anyone has any questions, please let me know. Okay, thanks so much. Have a good day.